Malcolm X previously stated that he's for reparations, but do you feel reparations should be given only in the form of money or education?
I feel like those two things aren't mutually exclusive. I believe they can go together in tandem. Just to give an example, like if there was a basic income guarantee along with free education and maybe tax exemption, I think that would go a long way to righting the ills of the past.
The reparations paid to the Native Americans in 1877 was a total of $122 million. In 1988, when Congress affirmed the installment of $1.25 billion to the Japanese Americans who have been interned, or relatives of the Japanese Americans who were interned in jail. As several economists have found and studied, the majority have found that around 10 to 15 trillion dollars, which is almost close to our national debt, is what we should pay in reparations. So those both models do not apply to this situation.
I'd like to.
I'd like to make a statement,
Yeah.
if possible. We as African Americans have gone through some tough, hard times. But I believe that as my culture, we need to look beyond that. I believe that we must learn to live together as brothers or perish together as fools. In the great book of the Bible, we see that money is the root of all evil, and I don't believe that with you paying us financially, we're going to solve anything. Instead, I believe in the form of education for all African Americans so that they can continue to strive. We're in the year of 2016, and we have seen our first African American president. I believe we're on a pathway to greatness.
So,
Honey, what is your opinion? You've seen both sides.
I feel as though I am for reparations, but more in an education point of view, not money.
I agree with you because, I come from a country that's not looked good upon in America. Just my skin color makes people think badly of me, think I'm a terrorist, and yet I was able to get past that and become rich myself through education. If it was not for my education, I'd not be able to sit here and wear this $600 shirt.
Let's say, can I mention man Takaki? You're saying that the demographic mostly shifts towards the black being oppressed, right?
Mhm.
Let's say we bail out the African Americans. Does that mean that another nation or another ethnicity will eventually become the other? Doesn't that make sense? If one person is lifted higher, that means somebody has to come down, no matter what, right? And let's say all the people on welfare that need that money to survive, to help their families, with paying back almost our U.S. debt as a nation, that'll cripple our economy, first of all. And not only that, how would that affect the lower level people that are not black, that are not getting this bailout?
Well, hold on. First of all, I want to deal with that last point that you made because I don't believe that is fact, and nobody can actually make that statement for certain because the reparations are actually being paid to American citizens that then would use it, so you can make an argument that it would actually bolster.
But what
the
happened?
United
What
States
happened in our
economy
stock
and
market
make it
crash?
even more
But
stronger.
this was staying in America too, my dude.
Well, if we're talking about the stock market crash, that was a bunch of white men.
Okay.
So you can't say what would happen if a bunch of black men had that power.
Can I
because we
interject,
haven't
please?
had
So
that.
you're racializing all white men to be stupid with money.
No, I'm not racial. What I'm saying
Well,
is
if
all
you
white
take-
men
well,
have been
well,
able to
in
have
my
the benefit of
perspective-
upward mobility in this country without any laws that have ever been
Guys.
passed to subjugate or oppress them.
Guys.
Period. Because if, let's say, just by what you just said, we fix it through education where African Americans can go to school for free, that still would be a reparation.
Of course,
You know, it might
that's
not
my
be
point.
a-
Now I'm agreeing that I do agree that the crimes against them were heinous, and now I do understand that you guys were oppressed throughout the centuries. We can agree on that. So what I would believe to be is what you were arguing, where we could find a equal ground, is that America's image of African Americans is twisted because there's not as many African Americans in the higher standards, right?
Mhm.
So where we could put and instate more African Americans in the judicial systems, the legislations, the executive even, where Dr. King's policies of education meet hand in hand, because with education, comes power.
So
And then-
what you're saying, and I agree with this is what you're saying, is you said we didn't state more black representatives, but to do that we would have to then go ahead and undermine the
No.
democratic system.
What I said that
because-
we follow his steps and provide education, because with education comes their power to be able to make these steps, and not give them out, because they still need the education, they still need to be able to represent the black community correctly.
We've a mission for you. Ready? May the Force be with us.
Rated PG-13. Get your tickets now.
You're closer now than ever. Deadpool on Blu-ray helps you be ready anytime. Ask your doctor if your heart is healthy enough for Deadpool on Blu-ray. If you experience joint pain, easy bruising, vomiting, or clay-colored stool, stop watching Deadpool immediately. If you experience hair loss, skin sores, and irritability, you may actually be Deadpool. And if you experience an erection lasting longer than 4 hours, you're welcome. On Blu-ray and DVD.
What's gonna help us is in education. You said it yourself.
Correct, but for instance, when we actually look at how our society works, if you look at the billionaires, for instance, majority of the billionaires
All the
either didn't
billionaires
hold
are
on, no, let me finish.
educated.
Either didn't go to college or dropped out. Bill Gates is one of the most wealthy
Bill
men
Gates
on
went
the
to
planet.
college.
Did he
Bill
finish?
Gates dropped out because
Did he
he had a
finish?
working thing.
Did he finish?
That's not the point. He
Hold on,
was an
it's a
educated
great
man.
point.
He
It's
was-
a great point. Did he finish?
He did finish.
Did he finish?
He went back to college after he set up Windows and started everything.
Exactly.
So,
after,
but listen, but that's not the
so
point,
what that tells
because he
us
had a
is
working
in
concept.
America-
He had a
in
working
America,
concept.
In a capitalistic society, it's the people who are rewarded are owners. So you need
Are you-
resources to start enterprise.
Are you
correct?
arguing
No.
that without education? Because Einstein, who didn't finish college, there's no way he could finish college if he had a high school diploma. No, he was still a genius, but because his policies were smart and worked, he decided, you know what, I'm above this education, I don't need this. Just in the same way Bill Gates didn't need to finish his college career because he
Exactly.
found
Some of
what
us-
I'm
a
saying-
working
listen,
system.
what I'm saying-
So
let
with
me- let me-
education,
let me
if
say something.
we're
But I'm saying, let
one
me ask you a
billionaire,
question.
where you
What
can
is
have
the most
multiple,
educated demographic in America right now?
the whites.
No, it's not.
Exactly.
Check
Okay,
the
so what's
stats
your-
again.
so what's your-
So obviously,
Chinese.
if that is the case, then you will have to look at it and say it's bigger than. Now, what I'm saying is, yes, education can be a part of it. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, you can't just negate and erase the resources aspect.
But if you're
of it.
negating the education, so if you're giving money to someone that's not educated and you're saying that's going to go back to the economy with their business, how are you going to get this business expertise without having an education?
Because what I'm saying is, well, that will be on them. But
Exactly.
What I'm saying,
So it'd go back to the same
Let me
place
give
where
you an
everybody's back in
example. Hold on,
poverty.
let me give you a prime example.
We're just
Like, let's
going back in
let's
the
say,
same cycle.
I'm just going to use an arbitrary number. Let's say the reparation cycle was $100,000.
Yes.
And let's say that the black person that got that reparations was dumb, and they said, I wanted to buy a Mercedes Benz, and they
Yeah.
spent $60 of that $100,000 on a Mercedes Benz. Did that not do a positive for the American economy?
Well, in your case, if you're because you're arguing, Mercedes is a German car, is
Uh-huh.
it not? So that'd go to Germany, back to Germany.
But it would be an American
There
dealership,
would,
correct?
but that's my point. So
the
but then
point
it would
of-
end there. But then it would end there. With that purchase of that car, it would
Right,
end there.
but then that
It
would
ends
be-
there.
But then that would
With
be
education and
their
more power.
I would
How
like-
does,
I would like
how
to,
does
like-
listen, how does buying that Mercedes help us as African Americans that we are continue
It
to
doesn't.
move
It
forward?
doesn't
Exactly.
help us.
It doesn't.
Hold on,
Do
let me
you
finish
not
what I'm
feel
saying.
this
It
is
doesn't.
some sort
In
of
that
new-
situation, it wouldn't help us move forward.
So
but the
why
point
not
that I'm
focus
making,
on
the reason why I
education?
made that point was to show because how this argument has been framed is as if if reparations was paid monetarily, somehow it would just disappear. No, it would still be a part of the economy. It would still be a part
Okay,
of the
I-
American.
I
But that's what
understand
happened.
that,
But
but
no,
like
no.
you said-
Can I just argue a point with the stock market crash? Do you know how it worked? You know what happened? Everybody was spending lavishly on their new Model T cars, the new furs. You know what happened? People were selling tires of their cars because they couldn't afford to eat. They couldn't afford the gas. So you're
But
saying
who-
that if you were to
but
buy
who
luxury
created
items
that?
and it'd go
Didn't
back.
the banks create the Didn't the banks create that from predatory lending?
So what's your
Correct
point?
or incorrect?
Yes, that's not.
Okay,
but that's not.
so they obviously borrowed.
But in that same sense, that if you were to give people the money, it would
they knew before they even got
it would inflate the
correct?
economy. It would inflate if everybody started spending lavishly because they got this reparation. It would inflate
But
the
that
economy.
is an
And then
assumption.
when nobody has no more money because
But
they
that's
work,
an
because
assumption. That's an assumption.
you were saying that education didn't matter.
No,
So-
I didn't say education didn't matter. What I said
You would take
was
monetary
you
over
cannot negate
education.
in a-
Pierre, where did you get that education for your, where you were able
Harvard University.
exactly, you educated yourself to be able to provide your service to make this education industry. Without the education, you wouldn't be able to start your industry.
I
And
still
even if you
feel as
attempted
though
it, you
our
failed.
ancestors, it doesn't really matter like what you take the money and do with it because it's still years of labor that they did. It doesn't matter. It's just like if you go work and you get paid and you take a check, you do what you want to do with it because you worked hard.
So let's
Thank
conclude
you.
this argument. Let's see what everybody's consensus is. I would like to say that in reparations, I believe that it should be given back in an education and financial support for families and individuals that need it, not in financial. Where would you go?
I'm for reparation. I think the government should because it will help like people like me invest in my career and continue in so that I can own my own business.
I feel that we should have reparations, but if we do it in the laws that are set up now and we do it with just financially or even education, you still have the predators there. It needs to be eye for an eye. It needs to be more than just here's money or here's a free college. It needs to be here's the stuff I have. I'm going to give it to you. We're going to do this together.
I have a dream that one day little black boys and girls will be holding hands with little white boys and girls. And we are seeing that today. And I believe we will continue to see that. And when we come to the discussion of reparations, the only way for us as African Americans to continue to better ourselves and better our next generation and our generations that will follow is to become more educated, because with education comes wisdom, and with wisdom comes control. And with control, we can, as African Americans and whites, work together to establish a great America.
Everyone who's familiar with my ideology knows that I'm a black nationalist. So how I feel about reparations is we should be given the resources, and I don't even like to say resources, our inheritance, because our ancestors earned those reparations, and I believe that will go a long way in us building our own nation within this nation. And until we come to that agreement, I will always advocate for it as long as I'm here on this earth.
Emily, you've been focusing on a specific image.
This is the picture that represents equality. The white man over here and the black man over here. To conclude, I am for reparations for education.
So what is this image?
Mr. Demands.